Recording. Hello. Woo! Anime. Finally anime. I'm so excited.
So I'm recently rescued Edge's Samantha.
I'm Mace.
And you know it's good when you hear right
Topany. We did it.
Yes, we did. Oh my gosh. Okay, so anime. It's not something we do very often on this channel. I think we've only ever done it one other time. And we're literally doing the part 2 of the only other anime review we have on this channel. And when I say we're doing the part 2, even down to like what the next episode's gonna be about, the part 2, because I was just discussing with Mason. I went back and I watched our review, and the last time we met here to talk about Given, I was mentioning that Max and Tell had recently gotten casted in a show called Manner of Death, and our next review is going to be Manner of Death. So like, we're perfectly on brand here, guys.
Man, it's truly been a year since we've been in quarantine, huh? That 1 year mark is coming.
It absolutely is. So Given, I'm going to let Mason give you kind of a little primer, because I feel like it is important to kind of not necessarily give a long explanation of the anime, but at least get you caught up to where we are now, because the movie jumps right into the space almost immediately after the anime ends.
Yeah. So Given is about 4 band members, and that's basically it. They start a band. The first season of Given follows the 2 high schoolers who are Uenoyama and Mafuyu, and basically how they start a budding romance. And then season 2, or the movie, it's killed some people. It's kind of the movie, kind of season 2. Like if you go on Crunchyroll, it's listed as season 2. Is about how the 2 other members of the band have their budding relationship. So it's basically just angsty boys and pop rock music, and it's fun.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah. I have to say, it's weird because this is a show that music is a central theme in a lot of the goings on of this show. And it was weird how music felt like it was on the fringes of everything, but was never the main point of anything, like in terms of a specific song.
Yep.
And that was really interesting because season 1 felt like it led all the way up to one specific song point.
Mm-hmm.
This season didn't have that same feeling to me at all.
Not at all. I would say I was really disappointed in that, because that song that they built up to, every time I watched it makes me cry. Every time I watch that scene. In fact, after I watched this movie, I went, let me check back on my favorite scene and see how it's doing. And I was like, yep, it still makes me cry. But this song, I think part of it's just, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and they're very disjointed, because I love animation. I love anime. I've been watching anime since the 6th grade, almost, I think more than half my life at this point. And I work in animation. I went to school for it. So I just have thoughts. So sorry if I'm disjointed and rambly this episode. There's a lot of, I think the reason it's not as impactful is partly because I just think the song is not as good. I don't think the song is as emotional. I don't think that they built it up as well as in season 1. I just think it's a mediocre song. I thought the song in season 1 was a lot better.
I thought the song was decent. I really wanted to hear the theme song to Black Butler for some reason. And that has nothing to do with this, but that's what kept playing in the background of my mind the whole time I was watching the movie.
Oh, I was very like anime opening.
I was like, that was in my head the whole time.
Oh yeah, definitely has, all the songs they had were anime opening vibes.
Yeah.
I also think when you said the music was on the fringes, I think that's a really good point to make, because I think that's one of the worst aspects about this, is that I feel like the director of this movie did a very just the most copy and paste thing that he could from the manga. And he didn't take advantage of the fact that when you're reading manga, I can't hear the music because it's, it's a book. But now we can. why is there was like no soundtrack to this movie. It was very, very few songs were played, even like the violin, you know, like very few instrumental tracks.
Mhm.
And it was really disappointing to see that. I wish that they used music to heighten people's emotions. You could have given each member, or both boys, because it was mainly about, um, oh my God, Haruki and Kaji and their relationship. I think each of them you could have done like a musical thing and given them their own song, so to speak, their own sort of theme. I think that's something they do in Ghibli movies a lot and their scores. And this whole time I was watching this movie, I just kept thinking about Studio Ghibli and how Studio Ghibli can take the mundane and something that's boring, just two people walking and talking, but you always feel the emotion. It always feels heartfelt. You always know what they're getting across. They always have, you know, some lush expressions, some scenery, some music going on that tells you what these characters are thinking and feeling. And I never didn't know what the characters were thinking and feeling. I just think that animation is a different medium than manga, and you have more to work with. And this director didn't take the opportunities to work with them.
I find it interesting that you mentioned Studio Ghibli because one of the arguments that we had when we did our review for the anime was how the budget impacted the way that subtlety and emotion and some of the deeper portrayals were put on the screen because of a lack of budget and a lack of maybe artistic
Mm-hmm.
value there. And I feel like comparing this to Studio Ghibli, where the budget is enormous, is like a little unfair.
I see what you're saying. I'm not saying that it has to look exactly like Ghibli or be Ghibli. I just think it's kind of like when you compare I Told Sunset About You to Tharn Type. It's like one is the standard and one is just not, but it's still like an okay budgeted production that could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes, does that make sense?
That makes sense. I just thought it was funny because I'm like, we are on opposite sides on that particular aspect.
I just think that there was more that could have been done instead of just the most literal translation of manga to screen. Like even like the storyboards, it was a lot of medium shots and close-ups. A lot of medium shots and close-ups. There wasn't a lot of depth on the screen, like there wasn't a lot of foreground. Like if you're trying to build like an appealing composition, you want like foreground, middle ground, background. It was very like characters in the foreground and then there was just like a background, you know? And I just felt like, I think the reason the manga works as a manga and the story in general is kind of boring. Like, I will give it to you, the story can be really boring. It's just some boys talking. That's it. That's all that they're doing. But the manga, I think, works because the illustrations are very, they're just really like sensitive in the way that they're drawn. They evoke like real specific emotions. And I just think that when you're translating that to animation and you have it's again different medium and you don't have the one same person doing all the drawings, I think you should take advantage and just have like better shot compositions to help
Mm-hmm.
make things more visually interesting, even if they're just sitting and talking.
Yeah, and I feel like this goes again back to our earlier review where I said I think a part of the audience for anime that then translates for manga craves very faithful adaptation. And I think sometimes directors get worried about making the changes that make it translate better to screen because they don't want to offend or have the manga audiences feel like so much of what they value has been changed.
Right. That's definitely probably what happened here is they were like, okay, let's take the exact dialogue, the exact scenes as they play out. Unfortunately, some of the scenes played out in ways that I was hoping they would change, but they didn't. So I'm sure you
Yes.
know the scene that I was hoping they would change that they did not change.
I feel like I want to believe that something was lost in translation in a particular phrase that was used during that scene. So Okay, so let's just talk about story-wise. Ugetsu is this prodigious violin talent, and he is well known across Japan, and he's famous. I think he makes money off of his performances. Like he's the guy. And Akihiko is his, I don't even know, like not former boyfriend, but not current boyfriend. They are stuck in this purgatory of relationship agony. And because of that, Akihiko does a lot of self-destructive and unhelpful things because of the uncertainty he has with his relationship with Ugetsu.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's kind of a sex worker on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds himself floating from household to household whenever he and Ugetsu fall out, because he gets kicked out of the house a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And one night he's kicked out of the house and he shows up at Haruki's house. And Haruki has had this not so discreet crush on Akihiko. And Akihiko decides to basically take advantage of this not so hidden crush. And I don't even know how to describe what happens. I don't know. Trigger warning, I don't know if you would consider it sexual assault because they don't actually have sex. But there is a lot of restraining and pulling at people's clothes and, you know, getting him in a very sexual position that makes it seem like the sex is imminent. And the other person saying, no, stop, I don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
But then he stops, Akihiko stops, starts crying, sits on the floor, realizes like this is totally fucked up what I've done. I've taken advantage of your feeling for me to kind of help me work out my feelings about somebody else, and that's wrong. And Haruki says, I basically gave consent. Like, you know my feelings, so I basically gave consent. And I'm like, I really hope that there's something lost in translation here, because just because I might have feelings for somebody, even if I'm married to them, even if we have kids, if we're engaged, no matter what our personal relationship is and my personal feelings for you, when I tell you to stop, that's what I fucking mean.
Right.
And I think it sends a poor message to say that because I have feelings for you, I basically gave consent.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are feelings that these two haven't even talked about at this point together.
Yeah. I wish they didn't do that because I really like the two characters and I think they have both a lot going for them. But that one scene really just sours what is ultimately in the manga like fairly nice relationship once they get together. And like the rest of the movie does spend good time proving to you like, oh, these two people are like they fit together, like they mesh nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that scene.
Yeah. And
I would have changed it for sure.
I do appreciate though that after the scene is over, Haruki doesn't sit on his feelings and be like, well, we'll just act like nothing ever happened. He's like, I'm leaving. You need to be gone by the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a lot of tension and a lot of anger. And when he goes, you know, basically I'm homeless, I have anywhere to go. He's like, listen, if it wasn't for the fact that we were in a band together, I would put you out on the street. But I need you to be available for the band. So yeah, you can crash here, but I'm still not over this. I'm still not really wanting to talk to you right now. And I'm like, at least he didn't act like it never happened.
Right.
But yeah, I wish he had said anything else. Honestly, if he had said anything else, or if he just not said that basically consent part, I would have been fine. Because I feel like, and this is going to sound very kind of, you know, ooh, woke police. I feel like putting that in there was the writer's way of saying it's okay because he gave consent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, no.
Yeah.
It would have been better if you had Akihiko say, I violated you. You don't have to forgive me, but I want you to know I realize what I've done. And what I've done is unforgivable. Because then you put the power back in the hands of Haruki. And from there, if he decides that he's okay with it, then that's his decision. But it's acknowledged by both parties. This was not supposed to happen. It should not have happened. And if things go sour from here, it's nobody's fault but Akihiko.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, like at least afterwards, like when they actually get together at the end, and Akihiko's like, "Can I touch you?" It's like, okay, at least he learned something from this, but still not great. Not great.
Yeah.
But I just think Akihiko's like dynamics with people is so interesting, especially in this movie. Because like he has this like weird draw to Ugetsu, and it's partly because of his talent, but he's also like kind of hates him for that talent, and he like lost his passion for music because of it. Like he even says, like, when did I hate music? You know? And then when they're playing their new song is like when it comes back to him that like, oh yeah, this is why I love music, and now I can finally let go of this man who was in some ways who was really bad to me and was holding me down, but they were kind of bad to each other, you know, like they both needed to separate.
Yeah. So I went back and I watched our review, and I'm like, I was so close to how things were really between these two, like their origin story. Because initially when I watched the first season, I was like, I don't like Ugetsu. I feel like he's using Akihiko as like almost like a servant, or like somebody who is a sounding board for any emotions he has, any anger he has, any desire for touch or affection. That like basically it's an uneven match. And I said in the last review that I didn't think that Ugetsu actually loved Akihiko. And I don't believe now that he doesn't love him. He just loves something else more. And that something else, he is willing to give away his relationship to Akihiko to pursue.
Right.
And I don't know what's worse, to have never been loved, or to know that your love is not enough.
Right.
And then also to not have the bravery and the courage, because you're a fucking coward, to let this person know this is the reason why I can't love you. Because he never says it. He never said to Akihiko, the reason I can't love you is because loving you interferes with music, and music means more. Because Akihiko's a musician, also a violin player. I think he would have understood. But you didn't even give him that chance. Instead, you leave him wondering, is it me? And that's a horrible feeling to give to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's still fuck will get 2 hours around here all day, every day.
Oh yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, and his little turnaround at the end, like, I was like, fuck out of here. I don't care. I don't care about your tears.
Yeah, he sucks. I don't like him either.
Yeah.
But I really liked the that they touched upon like falling in and out of like the things that you love, especially when they become like a job or you're trying to make it a job. Because I feel like that's such a that happens to people in my industry a lot. And I mean, I've had it happen to me too, where like you'll just be like, I don't know, art's not really doing it for me right now. And then you'll just see something that clicks with you that you're like, oh, yeah, that's why I want to do this. Like, this is so inspiring. This is amazing. You know, like, I feel like a lot of people felt that when they saw Spider-Verse. A lot of people in animation were like, oh my God, cool. Animation is going somewhere. Like, we're moving in a direction now. I think that's great. I like that they touched upon that. I really related to that part with Akihiko.
So, Akihiko, I felt for him, but then I didn't feel for him. Because, like, the way he treated Haruki was terrible. But I also feel like his relationship with Ugetsu was his first relationship, and that relationship taught him bad habits.
Yeah.
So I felt really weird sympathizing and not sympathizing with him a lot of the time, but also like I have no hang up about people who do sex work for survival. That I understand, it is a thing. But there seemed to be an emotional quotient to some of the sex work he was doing in season 1 that made it feel like it wasn't just about survival. It felt like it was also him manipulating other people. And I wonder how much of that tendency towards manipulation he was able to let go before he finally got back together with Haruki, or before he made things official.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's an interesting point to bring up.
Because didn't he have like a pseudo thing with Unayama's sister?
Yeah.
And that was not a she pays me for sex thing. That was like, we're dating kind of a thing. But then all throughout this movie, he's constantly trading sexual favors for money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm just like, your ability to float in and out of emotional manipulation with people is frightening. And it's because somebody else has mastered this for you. So it feels like you practice on so many other people to try to see if you can do that same thing, so that maybe at one point you can gain the upper hand in this original relationship.
Right.
And that's really frightening, to be somebody who's basically a guinea pig. And that's what he tried to do to Haruki. I think that whole assault was him, again, using those manipulation tactics, but something in the back of his mind saying, wait a minute, don't fuck this up, because this is one that you can't dispose of this person like you can other people.
Right. Ooh. Well, oh my God. Sorry. So embarrassing. Well, the manga updates very slowly, so we haven't really seen him in a while, so I can only hope that once we start seeing more of him, he does continue to get better at that, and he really does cut it out once he starts dating Haruki.
I hope so. One thing that was very interesting, and I don't know if it's necessarily changed, because I watched a review, but I didn't rewatch season 1. Mafuyu and his relationship with Ugetsu is a relationship that, when it was hinted at in season 1, I was like, fuck that guy, don't do it, y'all should never be in the same room together, please don't let this happen, because you're going to ruin this boy.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a real, genuine friendship based on artistic genius.
Yes.
Which I've never known anything like that, because I don't have any form of genius that I consult other geniuses about.
Same.
But that friendship was the only thing that humanized Mafuyu in this movie to me. Because in this movie, he felt very much like a stock character.
Yeah, his role was his role was to watch and observe everyone, and then write a song that is supposed to describe the feelings of those around him. That was his role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, they kept mentioning that they thought he was a genius. They're like, oh my gosh, he's progressing so fast, he must actually be a musical genius. Which I remember in season 1 saying, he seems like he didn't even listen to music or care about music until this day. And so I did appreciate that it turned out that Ugetsu was not using Mafuyu.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pleasant to see, but also, like, it was interesting that, like, these are two people who operate on a different logistical plane.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really interested in seeing more of their interactions and more of what they talk about, almost, because it's a universe that I feel like I've always been outside of, that I've never had any entree to. And watching them, like, for instance, when Mafia is trying to play the initial song, he's like, no, that's wrong. You need to do this, that, the other. I feel like you were trying to go this direction. As I was watching that, I'm like, ooh, that feels offensive. But Mafia's like, no, you're right. And let's keep going. And I'm like, okay, I'd like to see more of this.
I'd like to see more of that too. I mean, you see it in art all the time. Someone would be like, hey, aren't you going for this instead of this? And be like, oh yeah, I am doing that. You're right.
Yeah, so I thought that was really good because it made it feel like it wasn't such an uneven friendship because they're understanding each other on a different level and they're giving and taking to each other. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that also because it was the only time that it felt like Ugetsu talked to somebody about his relationship in a very honest way. I think he was a little bit kinder to himself talking to Mafiu than he would be in his own mind. But still, it was just nice that he got it out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like their friendship a lot. I like their friendship more than I like the relationship between Mafiu and Uniyama. I know I say his name wrong.
Don't hate on my babies, okay?
I'm not hating on them, but like, what did we get out of their relationship this time? All we got was, I'm nervous. Don't be nervous, baby. You're gonna be fine.
I guess I'm okay with that because it's just not the point of this film. Like their story was last season. So this season we're gonna focus on them. But I do really wish that the movie's only like an hour, but I do wish that they gave us a little bit more than that. But I don't even think that scene was in the manga. It could have been. I didn't do a reread before watching this. That these chapters came out quite a while ago. I don't remember if that was in the manga. I don't think it was. So I was at least happy because I genuinely did not think I was going to get any cute moments between the two. So I was at least happy for that because it was a sweet moment. I mean, it wasn't much, but it was nice.
It was. But yeah, I wish I had seen maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure what I was looking for between them. You know what I think I was looking for? I think I was looking for some more of Uniyama's personality because I feel like season one was all about his personality and like his inner workings and his kind of nervousness and trying to deal with his sexuality and then also like the pining and finally getting in the relationship. So I think I would have liked to have seen another kind of cute, nervous moment from him just to kind of remind me of where we were in season one.
Yeah. Well, they do a really nice thing. If they ever make a season 3, it'll touch on this, where they kind of flip the script where it's Mafiu is the nervous one and actually has to go talk to Uenayama because they're kind of having a problem. And the problem is that Uenayama was asked by Mafiu's middle school friends, oh, can you like help be our guitarist for like a short period of time? And he says yes, and he's going to help them write a song. And it just sort of brought Mafiu back to, oh, this is like in middle school when I got left out of doing all of the fun music stuff with my boyfriend and my friends that I wanted to do. And so he's now nervous to like talk to him and bring it up because, you know, now Uenayama's spending all this time with them and no longer with Mafiu.
Right. And I did think about the fact that Blonde Tips was not in this one, which I was fine with that because I hated him in the last one. So it's whatever.
I'm just thinking about, because the manga is now his story right now. We're in his story arc. But yeah, I like it.
I hated him.
Well, if season 3 comes.
Yeah, I'll probably still hate him because I feel like people did nothing change. I do love that when Haruki and Akihiko have the conversation on the balcony during the fireworks display, and he's like, the place I lived before was in the basement, and I never saw the sun, so I never saw fireworks and things like this. And then he kind of starts to tell the story of that relationship. I'm so glad that they didn't immediately fall into bed with each other after that. Like that wasn't where things got better. And I needed that.
Yeah, I think the character progressions were good. Like it felt like by the time when Akihiko asked him, will you be my boyfriend at the end, it felt like enough time had passed where like this conversation can be discussed again.
Also, what the hell is going on with everybody getting fourth place?
What do you mean?
Okay, so Akihiko does his violin competition after he decides to start being more serious with violin. He gets fourth place. The band got fourth place at the amateur contest, so they did not
Oh,
win.
I didn't
So I'm
realize it
like,
was fourth place. Okay.
yeah. So I'm like, what's the significance of fourth place?
I don't know. Maybe the number four means something in Japanese. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I thought it was interesting that both of them were fourth places. Also, I'm glad they didn't win. I mean, not because they're not great, but just because I'm like, it's realistic that y'all are a brand new band and y'all should not win.
Yeah, them being fourth place is okay.
Yeah.
No,
Also, like, did they hire a different backing band to play the music this time? Because
maybe.
the music sounded worse. Like the actual instrumentation sounded worse in the movie than it did in the show.
I have no idea.
Mm.
I was more whenever they were performing, I just kept thinking about because all those performance scenes they cut between CG and 2D animation. So I'm just
Mhm.
sitting there staring, just like looking at it. Yeah. The CG animation was much better this movie. It was very weird in season one. It was very like, we are moving puppets and I am strumming guitar now. This one had a little bit more nuance to it.
The weirdest animated scene to me was the scene where Haruki was walking down the street underneath some trees and there was light coming through the trees, so it was casting shadows on him.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this looks really weird. And it was like near the very beginning of the movie, but I'm like, something about this scene isn't right, and I don't know what it is.
I'll have to go back and look because I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it was like he was walking down the street underneath these trees and he sees Akihiko in the car with this girl who he kisses, and then the girl gives him money and he gets out the car.
Yeah.
And
This
I'm
scene
just like,
was weird.
yeah, it looked weird. It looked weird.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and look at that and I'll get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, like something ain't right here. I don't know what it is, but something just ain't right.
Hmm.
But there was brave of them to show a blowjob in this movie.
Hmm.
I was like, this is, I feel like for the most part, this has been pretty PG. And like for
Hmm.
him to be on the phone and like being serviced at the same time, like, okay, graphic. But also it wasn't the blowjob we wanted to see.
No.
No.
But
So goodbyes. The goodbye that Mafui had with his former lover who died was through the song. The goodbye that Ugetsu and Akihiko have is after Mafuyu's song, and Ugetsu is on the way to the bus station, I guess, to go home. But I felt like that goodbye, and maybe it's just because I misread the scenes previous, I felt like that was an extraneous goodbye. Because I felt like they had a goodbye when Akihiko went to the apartment to get his stuff and said, I'm at least going to get my long sleeve shirts.
mhm.
And so I kind of need to understand why the bus station goodbye was needed.
I think it was needed because I think it's the point where Akihiko finally clicks for him that yeah, this is done and I think I'm okay with it.
Mm.
Like it seemed like he had finally found a little bit of closure with himself in the situation. And he was like, hey Ugetsu, just so you know, like you kind of broke up with me, but now it's yeah, we're on yeah, we're done. I think that's what they were going for.
I guess so. I mean, I can't really tell, but it's just like when he came
Mm.
back to the apartment and got his stuff, I felt like it was over then. I felt like it was over then. But also like their relationship, I mean, beating each other up, bringing guys home to sleep in the bed that you share with him, like
Mm-hmm.
their relationship was so fucked up. It was just, I was ready for it
Yeah.
to be over the very first time. I didn't want to keep going back to it to be like, and it's finally over. And now it's really over. And now it's triple dog over. Like I was like, I'm just done.
I guess as a viewer I understand it, but I guess as a narrative, like those types of relationships, I can see why it took them a few times of really being like, it's over, it's done. Okay, maybe a little sucky suck on the side. Okay, no, now it's done. We're done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And That's the other thing too, like in season one, the way that Ugetsu would be sweet and then lure Akihiko into a sense of comfort or a sense of like having his guard down before he'd be casually cruel to him again, to me showed up more in season one than it did in this movie. In this movie, he just seemed casually cruel all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't
And
very nice, ever.
oh no, and I was just like, yeah, I do not understand what's keeping you around here.
It's hard to let go of your first love, but also like a lot of he was living with him, he was his first love, and also like his love of music was also tied to him. So there was a lot for Akihiko to let go and a lot for him to get over and to ever leave.
Right. And I wanted to ask you about that too, because he does equate his love of music with Ugetsu. And I guess seeing that Ugetsu was so good at music, did he hate music or did he just hate the way that he made music?
I think it kind of combines when you get into that state. At least for me, I can only speak from personal experience. I don't know. Sometimes you really get to there where you see something, you just like, sometimes you see something so amazing and you're inspired. Other times you see something so amazing, you're like, I could never and will never do that. Maybe I should give up. Maybe art does suck. Like, maybe I should stop drawing forever and call it a day and be an accountant. I don't know. Um, so I guess it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's I hate my art, and sometimes it's I hate art as a whole.
Okay, because I wondered about that because I feel like if he hated music, he wouldn't have been as excited in season one when they recognized that Mafuyu was going to be good for the band. And also, I feel like he would not have moved to a different instrument. Like, he did move to a very different instrument. Like, he didn't pick up another stringed instrument, he picked up the drums, but he stayed still music adjacent.
Here's how I'll equate it. I'll equate it to he still loves music, but it's becoming harder for him, and he hasn't quite figured out how to break through it yet. Like, I took a gap year in college for like personal reasons, and part of it was because I didn't know if I liked art still. But during my gap year, I still took like an art class here or there to like the moment I finished school, I took up like a painting class, an oil painting class, because it was just like I wanted to do. I was like, I think I still want to do art, but I need to do something different. I can't just be drawing. I want to do maybe not cartoons. Like, let me try oil paintings. I did portrait painting for a while. So that's how I equate it.
Okay. But yeah, I was curious about that because I feel like if you hated music, you wouldn't want anything to do with it even. And he's still, like I said, was very music adjacent. But that was interesting. Also, Haruki, I found it very interesting that he has so much negativity associated with his technical abilities. Like he's like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm not as good as you guys. I'm not the genius you guys are. Why do you even keep me around? But he also is being invited to be a member of his ex-girlfriend's band. I mean, he's still very much wanted. And Akihiko says, well, you're wanted because you're the glue. You can't have a room of four geniuses. You got to have three geniuses plus somebody to kind of string it together.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he needed to have somebody confirm his talent for playing. And I don't think anybody gave that to him. Even though he got invited to be a member of another band, it's almost like, well, we don't have a player, so we need you. And I feel like at some point I'd like to see him have some confirmation that he's just as valuable a instrumentalist as everyone else.
Right. I agree with you. I think that's really needed. I'd love to see that for him. He's
Yeah.
nice. He deserves. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and it made me feel bad because I also felt like that played into the reason why he was willing to kind of be a lapdog for Akihiko for so long, because he never feels like he deserves. And he always makes excuses for himself as to why he can't pursue this relationship, or why he can't even talk his way out of letting this relationship go, because like, well, of course I'll have a crush on you because you're perfect. Of course I don't deserve you because I'm crap. Of course I
Mhm.
should let you run all over me because I mean, what am I really good for?
Mhm.
And I feel like if music is so tied into these personal romantic relationships, Haruki needs a moment to be told that his musicianship is valid, so that it coincides with his being told that his feelings and his share of the romance is valid.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I don't know. I wanted that for him. I wanted that for him here. And I hope it happens later on, but I wanted that for him here.
Yeah, that would have been a really nice way to tie it up a bit.
Yeah. I loved his haircut.
I loved his haircut. I did think though, looks a little bit like Ugetsu, but still nice.
I thought that same thing. And I'm like, okay, did you cut your hair like this because that's the only haircut that Take knows? Or did you cut your hair like this because you still are in the mind of, I've got to compete against somebody?
I don't know. It was a really nice haircut though. He looked really cute.
Also, like, did he know at the time that he got the haircut that Ugetsu was the former boyfriend for Akihiko? Because I felt like that was never really very clear until the fireworks that that's who the ex was.
Yeah, I don't think he knew at the time.
So it was completely unintentional in terms of like the character's motivation, but I guess
Mhm.
maybe the artist was like, and here is where it's all tied together.
Akihiko's got a type.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
But yeah,
I thought the movie was good though. I didn't think it was a movie. I think that's the main thing that's going to affect my rating of this. This was not a movie. This was a bonus episode.
yeah, for sure.
And I think it's really shitty to call it a movie because there's not a big increase in quality. It's not very long. And it kind of feels formatted like an episode instead of a movie.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't even like where they ended it too. I'm like, I think there's more to the scene in the manga. Why didn't we finish the scene in the manga?
Okay. So I watched one other person's review of the movie, and I cannot remember the channel name. It's Jojo Can Watch or Jojo something. If you look up Given Review, you'll see the channel. So it shout out to you. Sorry, I can't remember your name. But someone in the comment section said there are a lot of scenes in the manga that would have fit well into this movie that they did not put in that would have
Mhm.
helped with the flow, and that you see panels from those scenes in the credits.
Yeah.
And I have to ask the question, what's the point of even including those panels in the credits but not putting them in the movie?
Nod to manga readers. That was it. The movie should have been an hour and a half. The movie should have been an hour and a half, but it was an hour.
Yeah, if it's a movie, it should be an hour and a half minimum. Like it doesn't have to be 5 hours, but an hour and a half, because I want to say the episodes were 40 minutes.
They were like 20.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was like 3 episodes. It was a 3 episode arc, but it should have been 5 episodes, you know?
Yeah. So it should have been better.
It should have been.
Should have been better. But if I have a rating, my rating is a 6.5.
I think that's fair. I think I'm going to give it a 7, but I have to give it a 7 just because I relate to this quite a bit. I don't know. I really like Given. I understand the criticisms, but like it's a bunch of cute boys talking about the artistic journey in an honest way, and I appreciate that. So, I'm going to give it a 7. It was nice.
I still feel like this would be a really good live action. I feel
For sure.
like this would be perfect to be a live action. I also feel like if I was going to make this a live action, I would push the time frame back to like the late 80s, early 90s. And I would make them grunge musicians.
That could be fun. I don't know. I like the Japanese pop rock, so I'm okay with it. But I would love to see, listen, person who did Cherry Magic, do this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like there's definitely a lot of room here to do this live action. There's a lot of tension that we've seen lately in adaptations for live action that have been pulled off that maybe in the past they would not have been. Like I'm thinking very specifically of Mood Indigo. Like I don't think that I've seen a dark BL like that ever.
Right.
Like I'm thinking of all the BLs we've been watching, and that BL is dark, but it's not dark like it's dealing with violence and stuff like that. It's dark in that there's a lot of very complex emotional things going on in the background, that sex is kind of the curtain over the scene, and it's kind of covering up for all this other stuff going on back here. And
right.
I think that if you can adapt a property and make it something like Moon Indigo, where the live action complements that emotional complexity, bring that over to Given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching this. I know this wasn't I know Given's not like your favorite property, but thank you for indulging me this week.
No, I'm good with this. And I mean, we've been talking and we asked for contributions in the comment section, and there was a little bit of debate about Yuri on Ice because I feel like canonically it is a gay property, but also other people could interpret it different. And also the gay doesn't come in until like the literal absolute end.
Yeah. I'd be willing to do Yuri on Ice for sure. I think I was really hesitant at first, but I'm not even like a hater of Yuri on Ice. Like I have multiple Yuri on Ice figurines. I have multiple scandalous Yuri on Ice dojin from anime conventions. Like I have the merch. So
I have a Yuri on Ice t-shirt.
Yeah. So, maybe we should just talk about it one day.
Yeah, we'll probably do that. But yeah, I think we'll do it, but it's a little bit further down the road because it does kind of take the coward's way out.
What do you mean?
Like it saves the gay till the end. So it's like we want people to watch it and we don't want them to give up. So we'll save the gay to the end and then we'll just hit it with a kiss.
Yeah.
But I think for you as an artist, Yuri on Ice would probably be a more fun discussion to have because of the ice skating scenes.
Those scenes range from really good to why are they stretching? So
and that's why I think it'll be a fun conversation. Listen, around these parts, the messier you are, the more we get to talk about. Stuff that's good, we're like, it's perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really have a rant, and I don't even have an Instagram of the day because this was really an on-the-fly thing. But I want to talk very briefly about access. So Hello Stranger is a show that we didn't review on this channel because we did Game Boys, and Hello Stranger actually ended before Game Boys. It was a much shorter series. It's a Filipino boys love, but they recently did a movie version that you can stream on a few different apps, but it's not like mainstream apps for American viewers. I would put it that way. And this falls in line with a problem that we've had across the board with like where to watch things, how to watch things. Because I don't mind paying for stuff that I like. Like I pay for a Viki subscription just so that we can do the Korean Bonanza in a couple of weeks. And so I don't mind paying for content. But what is really frustrating is the way that we're asked to pay for content and the prices. So I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. Me and Mason did not pay to watch ITZY. We watched it illegally. That is because Itsy was fucking, I think, $12 an episode. And I love Boys Love. I'm not paying that. That's movie theater tickets. And I'm not paying movie theater prices for a show that I'm not even owning. I'm renting on Vimeo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to have a real conversation about access, because if the issue is that it costs so much to do translations and everything else, and that's the reason why you need people to pay for it, then I get that. I absolutely get that. But you also have to think about, like, at what point is my audience going to pirate my material? At what point are people just going to be disinterested in my material because they can't get to it? And so there needs to be a better way of doing this. Now, there is the Gaga Olala site, and there's a lot of movies and shows that you can watch on there for a monthly subscription price. And it may be something that I end up doing later on, because there's a few movies on that website that I really want to review for us here. And that's one way to go. But then even amongst those websites, because we're in the age of movie theaters being virtually shut down, they're doing a lot of paid per view events within these subscription websites. And so even if I'm paying monthly $6, $7, $8, I'm also still paying you an additional $5, $10 to watch this movie event. And it just makes it to where I start to wonder, like, do I really want to invest these kinds of funds? And it's a really shitty thing for me to say, because I have the ability to pay for it. I'm not like some people who don't have the ability. And that's not me being classist or me being like, oh, look at me, I got money. I'm wearing press-on nails, y'all. It's me saying I'm in a privileged position that I can even consider the idea of paying for this.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody's in that position. And I think that it would be more effective if they would try to come up with a way to make it accessible, keep a money component to it, but not make the paywall so steep that people almost feel forced to pirate the material.
Mm-hmm.
There is a director, it's the director of Two Moons 2. His name is AIM, I think, or OM, AOM, OM. Anyway, he directs a couple of movies. One's called Present Perfect, and the other one's called Present Still Perfect. And he's talked a lot about the fact that people pirate his stuff. But his stuff is also not available on Netflix. His stuff is also not available on Viki. And so, yeah, it's getting pirated because it's behind these paywalls on these websites that, again, not as easy to access, a little bit more expensive, and so people aren't wanting to spend the money. And he goes off on Twitter quite frequently about the fact that, you know, he's not able to pay his actors, he's not able to pay back his production costs, he's losing money. It's making him hate doing these projects because the money's not there. But again, I don't think a lot of people who are watching this are willing to pay $12 just to see your movie at home on a cell phone or a laptop screen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the future is, but I think we need to really work on access, because number one, there's a lot of great things that don't get talked about because of access. I'm talking about you who's coming to me. There's a lot of great things that don't get talked about because of access, and there's a lot of careers that are impacted when people are doing their best work in a venue that nobody can see. Mm-hmm. There's one Boys Love that we have not talked about here at all, and it's the Boys Love that Kakoi from Game Boys did after Game Boys. And he did a Boys Love with a kid named Alex, and from what I heard, it's super cute. But it was on I Want TFC, I think is the site. And again, it was buy the subscription in order to be able to access the episodes. And the episodes were not like everything's loaded up so you can watch the whole series right now. It was, they're coming out weekly as well. So you have to have maybe a minimum of 2 months worth of subscription time in order to watch this series. Mm-hmm. And if you're already paying for Hulu, you're already paying for Netflix, you're already paying for Viki, you're already paying for Disney Plus, you're already paying for all these other things, that's one more bill. And it's COVID season. There's a lot of people who can't afford one more bill. So I don't know. I just wanted to have that discussion because when people pirate, we're looked at like we're the horrible people, but sometimes we pirate because it's just too much. Like I would, if the producers of I Told Sunset About You had said you can pay, I would have even been willing to pay $20 for the full season. Honestly, I would have paid $20 for the full season. There was no scenario where I was going to pay $12 per episode. And to not own it. That's the other thing. A season pass to rent it, $20, that's still pretty high, but I would have done it. To rent for $12 every episode, there's just not a scenario where that's the case.
Yeah, no way. Too much.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about that real briefly. Now, me and Mason, we filmed a GMMTV discussion. I don't know if it's going to go up because because I went back and I watched our last review and there's a lot of problems with our recording. I'm not sure how we're going to fix them, but there were a lot of frozen moments. And I don't know if Mason's had a chance to review the GMMTV footage, but if it's got the same amount of frozen moments, it's not going to be a fun discussion for you guys to watch. So know that we did film it. It's just that we've had these technical issues recently, and it's probably going to impact your ability to enjoy that discussion.
I bought an Ethernet cable, so I'm hoping that helps. There were some cuts in this one that I noticed, but it was not nearly as bad as it has been in the past few weeks. So I hope that this one is a much better watch.
I hope so too, man. I still don't know what the issue is. I'm filming on my other cell phone because I have two cell phones. I have this one that I normally film on, and then I have the one that you're looking at me now. And I picked this one because this one makes it to where if my home internet goes out, my cell phone plan kicks in and my data from my cell phone plan kind of pulls the slack. But yeah, I don't know what else we could do to try to make it more consistent, but we are trying to troubleshoot this thing, but it's just very difficult because we don't make any money off of this channel. You don't see any ads when you watch this. There's no money being made here.
Yeah. If there's ads, I don't even know if I have the monetization thing on these episodes.
If somebody's putting ads on here, they didn't tell us because we have not gotten a penny from this.
No money, and we don't even edit this. The way it's uploaded is exactly how it was recorded. So literally all I do that's special is I make a thumbnail. Because
our thumbnails are great. Our thumbnails are wonderful. Because Mason's an artist and he does artistic things. If you left it up to me, the thumbnail would be a screenshot. So you're welcome.
The first one was a screenshot, which I never went back and changed, which I should.
Oh man, our first one was, I love that screenshot only because it is our general opinion about that entire little series.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and edit it, like to put our faces, you can, but I still need his ugly face to be right there. And when I say his ugly face, I mean like he's making an ugly face. He's not, like he's making a what stinks in this room face.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it for this week. I hope this one was short and sweet, and we'll be back next week with Manner of Death. Right? Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Yes, that's true, but it got frozen, so that's why you can tell.
Oh,
bye.
Sorry. Bye.